Well, folks, you can see I kind of jumped the gun there. I didn't wait for you. I was kind of trying to start my torque bolts, my converter bolts, but I was noticing that the flywheel was sitting so far away from the torque converter, like extra far, and I couldn't, there was no movement. Normally the converter, you should be able to like slide it. I can't do it right now with a hand, but let's grab a wrench. Ideally, your converter should be able to play back and forth a bit. And mine was like pressed tight, tight, tight. So what I'm trying to do is, you can see the hole right here. Hopefully you can see it. You can see how it's kind of oblonged. You have to slot it to line them up. All right, so I got sidetracked. Anyways, this was too tight. I ended up having to take the spacer out, which is crazy. I don't know. Normally you'd put that little snout spacer in, but it seemed to be ramming the converter too hard into the transmission. So I kind of had to back everything off. I pulled this off, realized the snout was pretty much like it tapered out. So I don't know if it's something weird because this is a lockup converter. I'm not sure. It's kind of weird. Anywho, we have it back together now. I got to finish slotting the holes. We're going to bolt this converter up properly. We're going to get the mount bolted down. And then, well, I'm not sure where I'm going. Well, let's see if we can make it like drive forward and back. Let's set that for a goal. I'm hoping my steering parts come in the next few days, but I kind of guessing not. So we might get the steering column in, but it won't actually steer. Well, maybe I can jimmy rig and temporarily just set it up with a rag joint, even though that's not the way I'm doing it. We'll do the U-joint on top. We'll max out a rag joint on the bottom, which is not ideal, but because we're not actually driving it, we can at least make it move and drive under its own power. That's the goal. So I believe what I want to do is, well, get this tranny part sorted out. We're going to do the steering column. We're going to work on that seat. The reason why I'm actually going with that seat, in case you're wondering, over that one, because that one actually fits nice, everything. I could make new mounts for it. It doesn't scooch forward or back, so if my wife actually wants to drive this thing, she won't be able to drive it. So we're going to go with that seat because it does have the rails in it still, so we can it can scoot back and forth. Before, yeah, in the last video, I noticed when I was editing, it was kind of doing some weird chooch out of there, and out of the intake when it started, it did a little poof out of there. But I did correct that at the end of the video. We realized I didn't put, well, I should say I forgot to put in at the back of the intake. I was going to run, you got to run that check valve and everything down to your master cylinder. Well, I hadn't done any of that, so there was like a huge monstrous vacuum leak up top, which was explaining why the hard starts and the weird farting and all that stuff. The motor was getting an enormous amount of air and it didn't know what to do with it, so it was all coming past said computer. So anyways, long story short, I think goal for the video, we're gonna get this thing to drive. Not very far. We're hoping to move it back and forth here because we don't have the brakes yet. I didn't get that master cylinder and a few other things. I guess in hindsight I could use this one, but I don't like the idea of having the lines kind of dinking around there. All right, enough jibber jabber. Let's get this transmission going. We're gonna set her down. We're gonna make the rear drive shaft. I'm gonna take this apart and we're gonna put this one together properly. And then, yeah, then we'll start working on some seat brackets. Well, now, we still have some cleanup to do under here, but we got our drive shaft on. Not too happy about the way it's sticking out, but I'm not too concerned because this is like full droop, so this will go back quite a bit. Like there's still quite a bit in there. Anyways, mental note, when you're doing your drive shafts, you do want to make sure you phase them so they're lined up evenly so you don't get a weird vibration. All right, so we got that. Like I say, I got to do some tidying up with the wires down here. We got our bolts and our torque converter, which I don't have any of these covers at all, so they just seem to always be the one thing missing. We got our T-case bolted down. So that puts us to doing a rear drive shaft. So we're going to figure out how much we're going to cut out of that. We're going to drop the truck down, get it at get it sitting on its weight, and then we'll stick the drive shaft in, figure out how much we got to cut out of it. While I'm down here, I may as well weld in my boxing plate for here. Do those both sides. And what else do we do? Guess that's it for now. We'll do those couple things. I never did get a longer brake cable, so I'm gonna have to figure this out yet. I might have something on the shelf though. We may as well get this done and run new brake lines to the front. I can't remember if I actually bought new hardware, everything. I think I did. So maybe well, not right now, but I think we gotta deal with that at some point. But I gotta pull this diff apart anyways. I wonder if this is a posi or not. Nope, it's open, which is good for what I'm doing anyways. Posies aren't that great in the winter. Makes you go skating all over the place. They have been gooped up to the nines, so I don't know if something's been done inside of these things or what. But this one's leaking, and we got to pull that axle seal out anyways, so I guess we'll pull it open and just see what we got for gears in here. Give us an idea what this thing's going to be revving at on the highway, whether it'll be just idling or be screaming a little bit. Shouldn't be with the tire choice though. Alrighty, drive shaft. Let's do that first. Alrighty. Let's see if these will pop back in place. It'll need a little persuasion, but it'll get there. Alright, it's kind of a weird one. I'm going to spin it on the drive shaft lathe yet to make sure it's straight. Well, now we got a lot done. What did we all do? I have welded in the inside gusset plates, and we made a full outer plate for it. Just because we're lifting it with the hoist, I felt we should do that. Let me get in here. We'll show you what's going on. So we've kind of overly built the frame, which is fine. We basically plated the outside, plated the inside, and then I made a gusset on the outside of the frame. So I'm not sure where this cross member is going to go. Depending on how this hoist thing works, it might move or go somewhere, change around. I don't know. Not too concerned right now. So we got that done. We did our drive shaft. So if you kind of seen how we were doing it, I basically just cut the top. I walked in the lathe. We popped the top off. We stuck it in the lathe. I was doing the long end of it, just truing it up. And once it was trued up, we threw it on the bench, welded her solid, and then I choose not to look at it and see if it's crooked again. Only because I'll probably be sad from my goofing around that it probably moved. That said, I've never had a problem with it, so. All right. So we're going to, this is a tough one. Do I want to do the seat first or the steering? I guess we'll work on the steering. Let's try that. We're going to, we need this bit, and then we need to put this lower portion onto the column, but we need to shorten the column up quite a bit. So this is where it sticks out of the firewall, so I'm thinking like somewhere around this vicinity we're going to shorten this thing down, and then we'll buzz it up. And then we can start looking at the shifter, put that on, and we'll figure stuff out from there. Yeah, that's the plan. All right. Let's start cutting stuff up here and buzz it together, and then we'll test fit it. So we pulled the steering wheel off. We used like a simple steering wheel puller. These are like, man, I've been always using those 3-jaw pullers and they're terrible to try to pull a steering wheel off. This is where it's at, and these are cheap. Like I get them on Rock Auto, Summit, you name it. I think it's like, they're like $10 to $15. So that's like a worthwhile buy. All right, so we shortened the column down. We cut down because we knew that my firewall was somewhere around here. So I just brought this in. This will nub me out of the firewall a little bit. We just tacked the bearing on. Like if we had to replace it for some reason, we can. What I do is, so anyways, we burn this U-joint on, and then inside I actually burned it as well. I guess you could plug and do stuff. I'm comfortable with my welds that that's not going to break. I like to just throw a washer on there. So anyways, now we put this together. Once this side decides it pokes through. Alrighty. And what I try to do is keep tension on here so the spring is loading on it. So if I put it back together, this will end up just keeping a little bit of pressure on everything. It's what we want. I don't know how much you should have, but I always have a little bit. Oops, that goes on first. I was wondering why I wasn't springing. So I'll put that on. Then this will go on. This thing has like this nice horn button, a normal ring. So I was starting to try to take this off, but realized I didn't need to. Oh. All right. I'll put this here so I can push on this. We have to get this seated, but there's going to be tension on it, and that's kind of what I wanted. That way the steering wheel doesn't flip-flop, plop in and out, because that's not, I don't enjoy that. No, I gotta put the horn on. Let me do this again. Just give me a second here. Let me back you guys up a little bit. So you're out of my zone here. All right. So this gets pushed. That was a shiny spot right there, so put that on. We'll get this started, zip it on, put it together. Now we can put our horn back on. Why do I feel like I'm missing something? I don't know, I guess we'll find out. Anyways, you can see steering column works. Spins nice on the bottom. Good to go. Now we're just gonna put the shifter thing on, and then we'll have to feel like that's gonna have to get cut down yet. I wanna just do a quick test fit in the truck of this, and then we'll kind of go from there. that worked pretty good. You know, not 100%. I wouldn't have liked to smash the headers up, but whatever. We made ourselves lots of room in there now. This ideally would have been up higher, but I do need this thing kind of needs to get mounted out here, kind of a scenario. So I'm going to punch a hole up on top. We're going to loosely place that column in. I think I got to cut it, but I want to get it slipped through to figure out what I'm building there so I can run the shifter, get that thing figured out. Like I say, this rag joint is like maxed out to the nines, but this is a similar setup, I believe, how I'm going to do once my other U-joint comes. I'll kind of replace this collar with another shaft, and then we will burn on those, and then we can leave a slip into the middle of the whole works, so it'll still have a telescopic deal to it. Yeah, well, that's pretty good. I didn't want to move that bottom up more because it's going to need to get mounted, because right now the column is only mounted here, and it normally would have been mounted to the steering box. So now if you were to tug or pull on it, it could. This rubber boot is the only thing actually holding it into the truck right now. Anyways, let's drill a hole. Let's get our shifter mounted through there. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to cut it, and I'll find somewhere to randomly cut it because we need this little spliny bit on the bottom here. But we took, I don't know how much out of that column, and this is gonna need probably in that vicinity as well. Well, not too much, but it's definitely gonna need some taken out of it. We'll see. We'll punch our hole first, get that thing mounted, and then we'll see what it looks like out the bottom. Well, I think I got stuff trimmed up. I'm going to trim the front of this off. I couldn't run the neutral safety. We'll have to figure a different way around for that. Not a big problem. So we trimmed that. We got lots of room. Everything's good here. The column should work, but because this thing dances around, I can't actually go through the motion yet. I need a way to mount this to the steering column. But I think I'm going to make a bracket to attach this to the firewall. And then on the inside, I want to make like a bracket that kind of goes over the boot. And then we can bolt the steering column to the floor. Or something vice versa like that. But essentially it goes through this hole. But I need a way to mount this thing, because right now, again, like I've said before, it's only mounted up here. So the rubber boot, you can see how the bottom of the steering column just, maybe you can't, but it just dances around. So we need to make a bracket that we can bolt down. This is not perfect, so I'm thinking I'm just gonna make one that bolts into here. All of this stuff does what it's supposed to do. I want to be able to, if I had to pull a steering column off, that it comes from inside the truck. I don't want to pull the steering wheel off and try to fish it out that way by making a plate on the outside. So we're going to cut a plate for this, and that this fits through, and then we'll figure out a way to boot that up. And then on this side, this has the bolt hole, so I'm not sure. Like normally it clamps onto the steering column, but underneath here it tapers right away. So I could drill holes up here and then maybe try to reuse that bracket. Because if it's just sandwiched on, it'd be good. Yeah, it might be the better way, now that I think about it. I just hate taking that thing apart. Holy, it's kind of crappy. Anyways, concept is right. We'll probably go with that. Yeah, whatever. Enough babbling. Let's cut some brackets and see what happens. I think if I take that off, re-drill it, we can reuse this bracket, so we don't got to do anything fancy for this, the shifter mount. Let's do it. Alrighty, folks. What did we all do? We kind of modified, and let me get my light on for you here. We modified everything with the shifter and stuff. Like I say, I got rid of that. This thing does bolt on, so we are good there. I temporarily just kind of have this thing jimmy rigged onto here with a booger weld there, just to see how my steering wheel orientation is to this. But hindsight, thinking about it, I'm going to have to redo it anyways when I get my proper U-joint for down there. You were watching me in the time lapse. I was toning out the O2 sensor for this side, so we now have the O2 on this side all wired up, good to go. We put our little nubs for exhaust in, so that's good. And we made our plate and stuff for our steering column for the bottom part. So you see me cutting that out. So that's down there. I haven't bolted it yet because I'm not sure if I want to pull the steering column or what. I'm thinking I will, just so I can paint the column and then I can paint the shifter, because the shifter doesn't really match anything, and I think I'll do the column black and the mount there, and then we'll do the steering column gray like I did the dash. Kind of the plan. But I think for now what we're going to do is we will... I took the wheels off the ground because we don't have any brakes, so I think I'm just going to fire it up, see if it steers, which it should, and we'll see if it does the motions and go through the gears and stuff. Well, we'll see if it spins forward anyways. I kind of, what do you call it? I don't know. I don't have brakes and stuff like that. And because it's 4x4, I think I have it in 4-wheel drive. Well, just see if everything works. Why not, right? I don't know anything about this truck. We'll lift it up a little bit higher here. They're just off the ground, but we don't want it scooting on me. Alrighty, let's get that done. So my fuel gauge came in, which is super cool, and luckily I still have the old one here. So I'm going to try to mirror the sweep of this one to my new one. Like you can see the pivots a little bit of a different zone here, and whatever, I'm going to see where empty is because we'll mark this out. Yada. I think if I just unscrew this, get rid of this plate, screw this thing to this part, and I got this infinite slide on it, that we can get into the zone of this thing. Anywho, let's get started. We'll see if we can at least get that much done tonight. Well, that all worked. I was low on power steering fluid, and then realized how many people were were shouting at their screens when they seen me, I don't know, when I did the lines. Put the hoses in backwards. That does some really weird stuff, I'll tell you that. Makes your steering want to just crank one way. Anywho, we got that sorted out, but I got a wrong fitting on this side, so I gotta get a fitting, so whatever. No problem. We pulled the steering column out, and we painted. So we got the column, we got some paint on there. I don't know, it's kind of looks odd with the steering wheel. I don't know if I'm gonna shoot it something else. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of mixed on that, but maybe because it's done, it's done. I did do the gray, same gray I did on the dash, on the shifter and stuff, so this will sit and wait. I guess I want them that contrast each other, but I just don't really know if I like that black. I don't know what other color. I guess it would look good if it was the color of the dash, but I don't actually have that color. Or anything like it, so I think it just is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to try something yet. But I got to let the paint dry before I do that. But I did not get as far as I wanted in this one. I wanted to get that seat mounted, but I think I'm pretty much out of time. And I think this is where I'm going to call it. So technically it drove on the hoist, but I don't have any brakes or anything, so there's no real point trying to go any further with it there. Like I say, I got to do some tune. The hard start, I think I've read about it, and this fuel pump puts too much pressure right off the hop. Like at idle. At idle, it's really high, like 70 psi, somewhere there, which is kind of too much. But as soon as you get on the gas, it goes to where it's supposed to be. So I guess you could put another regulator in. I'm not really going to worry about it. I'll just pull some fuel from startup, and then that should help that scenario. For me, anyways. It's the first time I've ever had that happen. I read on the forums, and they have with this one or the Corvette filter, they say that happens all the time. But me, it's a first for me. Anyways, like I said, this is where we're going to leave her. Next round, I think I'll get my seat in and get some of the luxuries done inside. And then I guess we'll go back and start doing some rust repair in the near future here. So we can get it looking like a complete truck, kind of button up the front. But anyways, I want to thank you folks for watching. And we will catch you on the next one. Later.